Alright, buckle up because this mess has been eating at me since last Christmas, and my cousin keeps telling me, dude, post it, people eat this stuff up. So, here we are. I, 38 male, found out right before the holidays that my daughter, 15 female, is not actually my biological kid. And yeah, it turned my whole world upside down. But that is not even the craziest part. For context, I have been married to my wife, Laura, 37, female, for over 15 years. We live in a quiet suburb, decent house. I work in finance and make a good living. She has been a stay-at-home mom since Sophie, our daughter, was born. Life has been comfortable, pretty normal, nothing wild. I have always been proud of being a stable guy. Paid off the mortgage early, built some passive income streams, all that boring grown-up stuff. One of my closest friends, David, was even my best man at our wedding, and he stayed a big part of our lives ever since. He is practically family. I thought I had things figured out. Then Sophie got assigned this family tree project for school, which should have been harmless, but it ended up ripping our family in half. So, this started pretty normal, not like some big dramatic thing. Sophie came home from her online history class with this assignment about building a family tree. She is 15, quiet kid, very straight A about school stuff, but she will also get laser-focused on weird projects like last spring, when she spent 2 weeks organizing our pantry, labeling everything down to the cinnamon. Anyway, the teacher wanted them to include a couple of personal heritage notes, and Sophie got excited because my dad used to say his mom was half Native American. I have got old photos and a couple of stories I only half remember. Stuff about his grandmother being from a small community out west and moving east after meeting my great-grandfather during some work thing. It is all fuzzy. My dad passed a few years ago, and I never wrote the details down, which now I regret. Sophie was like, "Can we verify it? It would be cool to be accurate." And honestly, I like the idea. Felt like a way to connect her to my dad, too. So we sat at the kitchen table that night. She with her laptop and me pretending to help, but mostly just handing her old shoeboxes of photos from the hall closet. Laura, my wife, was doing dishes and chiming in once in a while like, "Your grandpa loved that hat, and please do not get dust all over the counter, you two." The usual. The photos are all a mess. There is one with my dad holding me at some county fair, sunburnt and proud, wearing this belt buckle that probably weighed 10 pounds. Another where he is standing next to his mom, my grandma, in front of a small church with peeling white paint. She has got this straight posture and calm face, like somebody who has seen a lot and would rather not say everything out loud. Sophie kept zooming in on faces with her phone saying, "Who is this?" And I would be like, "I think that is Uncle James when he had hair." Or, "That might be Aunt Helen, but do not quote me." It was kind of funny, kind of sad. Sophie goes, "We could do one of those spit tests. Then I can list the percentages in the presentation. I am not huge on mailing my spit to some company, but I have mellowed on privacy stuff since everything is already everywhere anyway, and it sounded like something my dad would have loved for her to do. Plus, she was excited, so I said yes. We ordered 2 kits. The website is way too cheerful for something that ships little plastic tubes and instructions on not eating or brushing your teeth for a half hour. Sophie was bouncing around like it was a new gadget. Laura said she did not want to do it since she already knew her side, which, whatever, I did not push. She has this thing where she does not like extra accounts or subscriptions, and that is fine. When the kits came, we did them at the table like some science lab. The instructions are weirdly specific. Fill to the line, not bubbles. Snap the cap to release the blue stuff. Shake for 5 seconds, not 4, not 6. Sophie overachieved it, obviously. I mostly tried not to spill anything. We registered the codes and stuck them back in the box with the prepaid label. Sophie wanted to track the package, so she kept refreshing her email like she was waiting for concert tickets. I stood there with the feeling of doing something meaningful but small, like sending a message in a bottle and hoping it floats back with something useful. While we waited, she worked on the rest of the assignment. She typed out the tree in some free website, printed a draft, and then the printer decided it was going to print everything with this dumb gray streak across the page. So, she is mad at the printer. I am on the floor pulling out the tray. Laura is telling us both to unplug it and count to 30 like that fixes anything. Domestic nonsense. That night we ate leftovers and Sophie was telling Laura how she is going to put in a little paragraph about my dad as mom and maybe a map with arrows showing where the family moved. And I felt proud in that dumb dad way where your chest gets tight and you pretend it is because you are carrying something heavy. A week in, the results page started showing processing. Sophie kept checking every morning before school and every night after dinner. We would laugh about it like, "Did they find out I am from Mars yet?" And she would roll her eyes but smile. She is not super expressive normally. She has Laura's calm and my stubbornness, which is probably not a great combo when she turns 17, but for now she is still sweet and patient and just a little sarcastic. Then one afternoon, she came into my office, well, the extra room with the desk and the 2 dying houseplants, and said, "Dad, mine are in." She had her laptop tucked to her chest like she was guarding it. We sat down together and clicked through. It shows a colorful bar thing % this % that I am not an expert, but they make it easy with little flags and groups and whatever. Sophie started reading out loud. Mostly European, some Mediterranean, a tiny bit North African. That is cool. She kept scrolling and I kept looking for the thing I expected. Some mention of Native American. It just was not there. I did not panic. First thought was honestly that I had remembered wrong, or that the test does not catch everything. I told her those tests sometimes miss smaller percentages, right? Sophie nodded. She is polite like that, but I could tell she was disappointed. She had wanted to put a neat line in her presentation like I am X% this, and brag just a tiny bit to her friends. She said, "Maybe it is on your side and it will show up on yours." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, good point." I clicked over to my account, but mine still said received or something. Processing, no answers. That night, I pulled out the boxes again and looked with a different kind of focus. There is a letter my dad wrote me when I moved for my first job, the one where he rambles about making time for family and also how to change the spark plugs on that old truck I had. He mentions his mom a couple of times. Little bits like, "You get your stubborn from your grandma, and she moved a long way with very little back then." Nothing obviously helpful. I tried to remember if he ever said the name of the specific tribe. I keep thinking it was said once at a cookout when I was a kid, and there were 3 conversations going at once, and he was flipping burgers, and I only half listened. It is like when a word is on the tip of your tongue, and then it hides. Laura asked how the results looked. I said Sophie got hers and there was not anything about my dad's side in there yet, but it could be because mine were not in. Laura shrugged and said, "Those things are not always accurate, which is fair." She said, "Do not stress her about it," which I would not. Sophie looked tired, but she is a trooper, and just went back to finishing her slides. I watched her from the doorway for a second, hunched over her laptop, hair in a messy bun, humming this little tune she does when she is concentrating. That sight made me weirdly emotional, like she is growing up while I am just standing there thinking about old stories. The next morning, I went for a short run. I am slow, do not judge. Came back, showered, and checked my email, and there was the update. My results were ready. I did not open them right then. I do not know why. Maybe I wanted to wait for Sophie to get home so we could look together. I am not dramatic, but I also did not want to explain anything to Laura before I knew what I was looking at. So, I ignored the email and went about my day, answering a bunch of messages for work and doing boring spreadsheet stuff. I thought about calling my Aunt Helen to ask what she remembered, but she tends to tell you stories in circles, and then you end up on the phone for an hour hearing about her neighbor's dog. Figured I would get the data first, then call. Sophie burst in after school. Okay. After she closed her laptop, since school is basically the living room now. And she asked right away if mine came in. I said yeah, and she grabbed a chair and slid next to me. We opened the page together. It is the same kind of bar and flags and whatever. I will not pretend I know the mechanics, but it was clear as day. A decent slice listed under Native American. There it was. I felt this simple relief at first. Like, okay, my memory was not invented. Sophie smiled and said, "That is cool. We can put it in." And then we both looked at each other because the second thought came in hot. If I have it and she does not have any at all, then how does that work? Genetics is sloppy sometimes, I know. But none. Zero. That is when a tiny noisy thought started up in the back of my head. It did not even form words yet, just a hum, like when the fridge is about to kick on. I told her there might be explanations, that those tests do not capture everything, which is true. She nodded, but she went quiet, and I could see she was thinking her own thoughts. We saved the screenshots, and she went back to the kitchen to finish her slide deck. I sat there longer than I should have, staring at the screen, feeling weird and itchy under the skin. Like the way you feel when you know you forgot something important, and you are trying to convince yourself you did not. That night, after Sophie went to her room, I pulled up the testing site again and read through their FAQs. I read the part about percentages not passing on evenly and population references and all that. I am not an expert. I am just a dad with a laptop, but I kept circling the basic point. If it is a decent part of me, it should show up in her a little. Not guaranteed. I get it. But the odds kept poking at me. I wanted to double-check things. I mean it. I ordered an actual paternity test kit. The kind where you swab your cheek and mail it off. No ancestry pie charts. No, you might be related to some guy in Portugal. Just straight up yes or no. I did not tell Laura yet. I did not even tell Sophie at first. When the box came, Sophie was the one who saw it on the counter. She picked it up and read the front. "Dad, what is this?" she asked. I froze for a second. She is sharper than she lets on. "It is just another DNA test," I said. Her eyes narrowed a little. "Like ancestry?" I shook my head. "Not exactly. This one is more specific. It will tell us if we match up." She stared at me for a long second. Then she whispered, "You do not think?" I hated that look in her eyes. I reached out and squeezed her shoulder. "Sophie, I am not saying anything bad. I just want to be sure. These tests can mess things up sometimes. We will do this together, okay?" She nodded slowly like she was not convinced, but she went along. We did the swabs at the kitchen table. She handed hers back to me and said, "What if it says something wrong? It will not change how I feel about you." I told her I made sure she heard it. "You are my kid. That is not up for debate." She bit her lip and nodded. The wait was awful. Every email notification made my heart race. At night, I kept running through scenarios in my head. Maybe the first test missed something. Maybe I was panicking for nothing. Then another thought would push in. What if it really is not a mistake? About a week later, the email came in. "Your results are ready." My hands actually shook, clicking it open. Sophie was sitting right next to me, tapping her knee nervously. I scrolled. Big bold letters. No biological relationship detected. I just sat there staring. The words did not feel real. My brain tried to come up with excuses. Lab error, typo, wrong samples. But it was right there in front of me. Sophie leaned over my shoulder, read it, and whispered, "No." Her voice cracked. She pulled back, covered her mouth, then started crying. I held her tight. "Sophie, hey, look at me." She would not at first, but I lifted her chin. Her face was red and wet with tears. "I do not care what this paper says. You are my daughter. You always will be." She sobbed against my chest. "But you are not. You are not my real dad." "The hell I am not," I said louder than I meant to. "I changed your diapers, taught you to ride your bike, sat through every boring school recital. Who tucked you in every night? Who was there when you got sick? That is a dad and that is me. Nothing changes that." She hugged me even tighter, like she believed me, but did not know how to let go of the hurt. That night at dinner, Laura noticed Sophie's eyes were swollen. "You okay, honey?" she asked. Sophie poked at her food and muttered, "Fine." Laura looked at me. "What happened?" "Homework stress," I said quickly. I was not ready to talk about it yet, but Sophie glanced up at me, then backed down, clearly holding in everything. I could feel it bubbling under the surface. I knew we could not hide it long. After dinner, when Laura went to fold laundry, Sophie whispered to me, "Are you going to tell her?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I have to." She looked scared, but also angry. "I want to be there." That night, I could not sleep. I sat on the couch with the laptop open, staring at the test results over and over, as if the words might change if I refreshed enough. I thought about my dad, how proud he always was of me, how he loved Sophie so much. Would he think less of me for not seeing this? Or would he tell me exactly what I already know? That blood does not matter. Love does. Sophie came down the hall around midnight, blanket wrapped around her. "Can I sit with you?" she asked. "Of course." She curled up next to me, head on my arm. We just sat there in silence. After a while, she whispered, "I do not want her to be right." "Who?" I asked. "Mom. If she knew all along and never said anything, it means she lied every day." I did not know what to say. I kissed the top of her head. "Whatever happens, you have got me. That is the truth." She nodded against me and finally drifted off to sleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, knowing the next step was going to break everything wide open. Finally, one night after dinner, I just told Sophie, "Stay in your room for a bit, okay? I need to talk to your mom." She nodded tight-lipped and slipped upstairs. Laura was wiping the counter. I leaned against the fridge, arms crossed. My heart was thumping so loud, I swear she could hear it. "Laura," I said, "we need to talk." She looked over, kind of wary. "About what?" I slid the printed DNA results across the counter. "This." She froze, rag still in her hand. For a second, she did not move. Then she laughed, this weird, high-pitched laugh. "Oh, those tests are junk. Everyone says that. They make mistakes all the time." I did not laugh. "It is not junk. It is a paternity test. It says I am not Sophie's biological father." Her face drained of color. The rag slipped out of her hand and hit the floor. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That does not make sense. You must have sent it wrong. Or they mixed samples." Did you read the directions right? I slammed my hand on the counter louder than I planned. Do not play dumb with me, Laura. Did you know? She flinched, eyes filling with tears. I was not sure, she whispered. Back then? I did not know for certain. My chest went cold. Back then? She nodded, shaking now. When I found out I was pregnant, I was not 100% sure. But you were stable. You loved me. I wanted it to be you. And it was easier to believe it. Easier for you? I snapped. Not for me, not for Sophie. From the stairs, a voice. So you did know. We both whipped our heads around. Sophie was standing halfway down the staircase, phone in her hand, eyes red and furious. She had been recording. Sweetheart, Laura started, but Sophie cut her off. Do not call me that. You lied to us. You lied to him for 15 years. Laura stepped toward her, hands out like she was approaching a scared animal. I did not mean for it to stop lying, Sophie shouted, tears streaming down her face. You let him think he was my dad this whole time. You let me think everything was fine. Do you know how disgusting that is? Laura's lips trembled. She turned back to me. I swear I did not cheat after we got married. It was only before. I was confused. I shook my head. I do not even care about your timeline right now. What matters is you let me raise a child under a lie. You let her grow up thinking everything was normal. Sophie's voice cracked. You ruined everything. Laura burst into sobs. I loved you both. I still do. I just did not know what else to do. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I did not see my wife. I saw a stranger. You could have told the truth, I said. Silence, just her crying, Sophie crying quietly on the stairs, and me standing there feeling like the ground had fallen out from under us. Sophie finally said, her voice hoarse, I hate you. Then she ran upstairs and slammed her door. Laura stumbled toward the living room, burying her face in her hands. I did not follow her. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, staring up, listening to Sophie sob behind her door. The next morning, Laura tried to talk. She said, we can move past this. Families do. I just looked at her and said, not this one, not like this. The days after that blow up were like walking through a minefield. Sophie barely came out of her room. If she did, she avoided Laura like she was poison, would not sit at the same table, would not look at her, nothing. And Laura, instead of staying humble or apologetic, she started getting defensive, almost like she thought if she yelled loud enough the truth would just disappear. One night we were at the dinner table. Sophie was eating in silence, head down. I was mostly pushing food around my plate. Laura slammed her fork down and said, this is ridiculous. You are both treating me like a monster when all I did was make a mistake years ago. Sophie looked up, eyes blazing. A mistake? You lied to Dad for 15 years. You lied to me. That is not a mistake. That is your whole personality. Laura's face twisted. Do not you talk to me like that, young lady. I carried you. I raised you. Without me, you would not even be here. Sophie snapped back. Without Dad, I would not be sane right now. Then she pushed her chair back so hard it scraped the floor and stormed upstairs. The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at Laura. Do you hear yourself? I asked. She crossed her arms, leaning back. She is being dramatic. Teenagers blow things out of proportion. She will calm down. I leaned forward. This is not teenage drama, Laura. You lied about who her father is. You lied about our marriage. You blew up her entire sense of who she is. Laura glared. And what about you? You think you are some saint? You would not even have this life without me. I gave you a family. I gave you stability. And now you are acting like I am some criminal. I laughed bitterly. You did not give me anything. I built this house, this life. You handed me a lie and expected me to say thank you. She shot back. Well, what are you going to do, huh? Leave? Throw away 15 years? Do not you think you can just erase me? Sophie will come around. She is just mad. Later that week, it got worse. My Uncle James came by to drop off some stuff from storage. He saw Sophie for a second and, like he had 100 times before, chuckled and said, man, she still looks more like David every year. Spitting image, I swear. Normally I would have brushed it off like I always did, but now I swear the room spun. Sophie froze, staring at me with wide eyes. Laura looked like she had been slapped. James did not even notice. He just kept talking about how his truck was leaking oil. After he left, Sophie whispered to me, he is right, is not he? I did not answer. I could not. She stormed upstairs again. That night I confronted Laura. Is it David? I asked flat out. She went pale, then tried to recover. What number? Do not be ridiculous. Do not lie to me again, she crossed her arms. It does not matter who it was. You are her dad. That is what matters. It matters to me, I said. It matters to Sophie. Laura snapped. You always cared more about appearances than feelings. If people think she looks like David, so what? He has been around, he is close to the family, that does not mean anything. I stared at her. You do not even hear yourself. She just shook her head and walked away. At that point, I knew she was not going to come clean willingly. And I knew Sophie and I could not keep living in this half-truth limbo. I thought after all that, Laura might just keep her head down for a while. Maybe sit with her guilt. Maybe even try to make things right. But no. Instead, she doubled down, like full-on decided the best way to fix a broken dam was by taping a piece of paper over it. It started when she came home one afternoon holding a white envelope. She tossed it on the kitchen table like she had just won something. There, she said, hands on her hips. Proof that first test was wrong. I stared at the envelope. What is this? It is another DNA test, she said, smug. I went to a different clinic. They ran it properly. And guess what? You are Sophia's biological father. Those mail-in companies are garbage. I told you. Sophie was sitting at the table with her homework. She froze, pen still in her hand, staring at her mother. What? She whispered. Laura smiled like she just saved the day. See, honey, your dad is your dad. All that stress for nothing. Sophie looked at me, her eyes wide, pleading. She wanted me to say it was true, to make it all go away. My chest ached. I picked up the paper from the envelope and read it. Immediately, things felt off. The letterhead looked like it had been printed on a home printer. The wording was weirdly casual. It just said, "Father is confirmed," with no breakdown, no details, no chain of custody. I had seen enough real documents in my career to know this was trash. Where did you get this? I asked slowly. A clinic downtown, she said, avoiding my eyes. They are private, more reliable than those internet companies. Which clinic? I pressed. Her lips tightened. Do not start interrogating me. The point is, you can relax now. I slid the paper back across the table. This is fake, Laura. Her face flushed. It is not. You think I would lie about something like this? I leaned across the table. If you think I am stupid enough to believe this garbage, you are insulting me even more than before. Laura's hands were shaking. Now why cannot you just let this go? We have a life. We have a family. Is not that enough for you? Enough, I repeated. You lied about the most important thing in my life. You made me a father under false pretenses, and now you want me to swallow a forged document and pretend it is fine. She crossed her arms, voice trembling. You are blowing this out of proportion. Families go through worse and survive. I did what I had to do for us. I stood up, grabbed the fake test, and said, No, you did what you had to do for yourself. That night, when Laura finally went to bed, I sat at my desk and started digging. I Googled the name of the clinic she wrote on the envelope. No website, no address, just some half-baked listing that looked like it had been made yesterday. I called the phone number straight to voicemail. So, I took photos of everything, the fake document, the envelope, even the listing. I filed them into a folder along with the real DNA test and the audio recording Sophie had. I was not sure what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing. If Laura wanted to play this game, she was not going to win. The next morning, Sophie sat down next to me at breakfast, hair messy, eyes still swollen. Dad, was it real? She asked quietly. I slid the fake paper across the table. No, sweetheart, she faked it. Sophie looked at it, then crumpled it in her hands. She is disgusting, I sighed and rubbed her back. She is desperate. But do not worry, we will make sure the truth comes out. On our terms. Sophie looked at me, her jaw set. Then promise me something. What? I asked. When you expose her, do it so everyone knows. Do not let her weasel her way out again. I swallowed hard. My little girl, who barely ever raised her voice before, was now asking me to burn her mother's lies to the ground. I nodded. I promise. I did not sleep much the week leading up to Christmas. My brain was stuck on repeat, thinking about what Sophie asked me. Do it so everyone knows. She was right. If I confronted Laura one-on-one again, she would just spin it, twist her words, maybe even convince herself it was not that bad, but in front of everyone, in front of family, friends, and especially David, she would not be able to crawl out of it. Laura, on the other hand, acted like nothing had happened. She decorated the house, baked cookies, played Christmas music on her phone while she cleaned. She even hummed like she was in some holiday commercial. It made my skin crawl. Sophie ignored her, barely coming out of her room. When she did, it was just to ask me something. And then she would shoot Laura a glare sharp enough to cut glass. Christmas Eve came. Our house was full. Laura's parents, my Uncle James, a couple of cousins, neighbors, and yes, David. The second he walked through the door carrying a box of wine glasses for the gift exchange, I felt my stomach flip. He gave me that big smile he always had, clapped me on the back. "Merry Christmas, brother." I forced a smile. "Yeah, Merry Christmas." Sophie was sitting on the couch, arms crossed. The second she saw him, her whole body stiffened. She looked at me and I could see the silent message in her eyes. "Is it him?" Laura floated around the room playing hostess, laughing too loud, hugging everyone, pretending we were the perfect family. I kept my cool sipping soda, waiting. We ate dinner first. Ham, potatoes, the usual spread. Conversations were light, people joking, my uncle complaining about his truck again. Then we moved to the living room for gifts. Everyone sat in a big circle, paper flying everywhere, kids shouting. Laura was glowing like she thought the act was working. That is when I cleared my throat. "Hey, before we wrap up tonight, there is something I need to say." The room quieted. Everyone looked at me. Laura froze, smile plastered on her face but her eyes darting nervously. I stood up, holding a folder. "I want to thank everyone for coming, but there has been something going on in this house that people deserve to know, especially Sophie." I put my hand on Sophie's shoulder. She did not flinch. She looked ready. Laura jumped in fast. "Honey, maybe this is not the time." I cut her off. "It is exactly the time." I pulled out the real DNA results, unfolded them, and held them up. A couple of weeks ago, Sophie and I did DNA testing, and these results prove I am not her biological father. Gasps around the room. Someone muttered, "What?" Laura's mother covered her mouth. Laura stammered, "That test was wrong. We already proved." I slammed another paper down on the coffee table. "And this is the fake test Laura gave us to cover her tracks from a non-existent clinic." I checked. It is a forgery. Sophie stood up now, her voice shaking but loud. She lied to both of us for 15 years. And when we found out, she tried to lie again. Laura's face went pale. "Stop. Please do not do this here." I pulled my phone out and pressed play. Her voice filled the room. The recording Sophie made the night Laura admitted she was not sure about the pregnancy. Everyone heard it. Laura's sobbing voice, me asking if she knew. Her whisper. I was not sure back then. Silence. Then whispers. People looking at each other, shaking their heads. Finally, I turned toward David. His face had gone ghost white. He was staring at Sophie, then at Laura, then at me. Uncle James broke the silence. Well, damn. No wonder she looks like him. The room erupted. Some people asking questions, others just sitting in shock. Laura burst into tears. "Please stop. You are humiliating me." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Laura, you did that yourself. Sophie deserved the truth. I deserve the truth. And now everyone knows." Sophie stepped closer to me, gripping my arm. She glared at her mother, voice breaking but steady. "You are just a liar." Laura collapsed into a chair, sobbing. David tried to say something, but nothing came out. His wife, he is married, grabbed her coat and stormed out. The room was chaos. I did not stay to watch her spin excuses. I put my arm around Sophie and said, "Let us go upstairs. The show is over." As we walked away, I heard Laura crying, begging her parents to believe her, but nobody rushed to her side. Nobody defended her. Sophie stayed close to me the whole night. She would not even glance at her mother. When everyone was finally gone, Laura tried to come upstairs. Sophie shouted from her room, "Do not you dare come near me!" and slammed the door again. Laura sat at the bottom of the staircase, sobbing into her hands. "You have ruined me," she cried, in front of everyone. "How could you?" I stood there looking down at her. My voice came out flat. "I did not ruin you, Laura. You did that yourself." Then I walked past her to check on Sophie. The next morning, Laura's bags were packed. She said she was going to her parents' house for a while. She stood in the doorway with puffy eyes, suitcase in hand, and whispered, "Please tell Sophie I love her." I did not respond. Sophie was upstairs, refusing to come down. Laura looked at me one last time, waiting for me to say something. I did not. She walked out, shutting the door quietly behind her. Over the next week, the fallout hit hard. Family members called, some apologizing for not seeing it sooner, some just gossiping. Uncle James kept saying, "Well, I always said she looked like David," like it was some kind of badge of honor for noticing. David never called me. I did not call him either. Word spread fast. His wife threw him out the day after Christmas. People in our circle whispered. Some tried to act like nothing happened. I did not care. My focus was on Sophie. She clung to me more than ever. She would come sit next to me on the couch without saying anything, just needing to be near. One night, she whispered, "I want to stay with you forever. Even if she comes back, you will," I told her. "You do not ever have to worry about that." She nodded, and I could see her shoulders relax just a little. I met with a lawyer. Mr. Carter looked through everything, the prenup, DNA results, recording, the fake test, and just said, "You are in a strong position. Custody, the house, finances, you will be fine." Basically, Laura gets nothing. The house, savings, even the truck are mine. She built her life on me being stable. And now, all of that is gone. She kept texting me long apologies. I panicked. I was young. I did not mean to hurt you or Sophie. 15 years has to mean something. Then she switched to guilt trips. I gave up everything for this family. You cannot just throw me away. But she still did not get it. I was not throwing her away. She threw us away years ago. Sophie refused to answer her calls, blocked her number. She told me flat out, she already lost me. And honestly, she was right. Laura had not just lost her marriage, she lost her daughter too. As for me, I've had a lot of nights staring at the ceiling thinking about what my dad would say. I keep coming back to the same thing. He would tell me I did right by Sophie. That biology is just numbers on a page. Fatherhood is the nights you stay up when she is sick, the times you show up to every game and recital, the way you sit with her when her world falls apart. That is what makes a dad. Laura can live with her lies. David can live with his shame. Sophie and I, we are moving forward. That is the only truth that matters.